Hey guys, today I just want to have a chat with you about interest, and today we're going to talk about simple interest. Interest can get quite complicated as you get into adulthood. There's compound interest and accrued interest, and it gets really complicated. Today in seventh grade, we're just going to get the main idea of what interest is about. I always talk about how there's the good kind of interest, and then there's a really annoying kind of interest too. So let's talk about the good kind of interest first. If you have a savings account or a checking account at the bank, if you don't, you'll get one eventually. As you get older, you'll need one. Um, but the good kind is when you have money sitting in an account, so say in your checking account or in your savings account, the bank will pay you interest for leaving your money sitting there in your account. So they'll pay you a certain percentage of the amount you have in your account. They'll pay that to you. You don't have to do anything for it. You just have to have your money sitting in the account and they will pay you interest. Okay, so that's a good thing. The kind of bad thing about it is that percentage amount is usually very low, between 0 to 2% interest, and lots of times the interest anymore is less than 1%. So it's very small. I do have one account that I was able to get signed up for that I do get 2% interest on a certain amount of money that I have sitting there. So it is possible to get up to 2%. So let's look at this. Let's say that I have $2,000 sitting in my savings account, okay? And let's say that this particular type of account that I have signed up with the bank for, let's say that I earn 2% interest, okay? Okay, so I'm going to find 2% of 2,000. So I'm going to punch in my calculator 0.02, that's my 2%, times 2,000. And so I would get to make $40 in interest if I had 2% interest. So $40 in interest. So for that year, I would have gotten to earn $40. And so now sitting in my account is $2,040. And I didn't have to do anything to earn that $40 except for just have my money sitting there in the account. Now, like I said, 2% is at the high end. That's as high as you're going to get for the good kind of interest. Typically, it's less than that. So let's just figure what would it be if it was 1% interest. So I would do 2,000 times 0.01. Well, that would be $20 of interest. So if I was only getting 1% interest, then the bank would pay me $20 that year in interest for just leaving my money sit there. Okay. Now I told you it's off of a certain percentage that you have sitting in your account. So if you have more money in your account, well then the more interest you're going to earn. So let's say I have $10,000 sitting in my account. And let's say I get 2% interest. So times 0.02. Well then that would be $200 worth of interest. And so then at the end of the year, I would have $10,200 sitting in my account. Okay. So the more money you have, the more interest you can earn. Now, I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure my girls' savings account is less than 1%. So let's just say I had $10,000 sitting in an account for them, which I don't, but let's just pretend. And let's say that the interest this time is 0.35%. Let's just look at that. 0.35%, that's less than 1%. So that number, as a decimal, I would need to move it 2 to the left from there. So I'm going to punch in my calculator. If I only get 0.35%, I'm going to punch in 0.0035 times 10,000. 0.0035 times 10,000. $35 in interest on $10,000. So that would mean I would have $10,035 sitting there at the end of that year. So it's something. So that's the good kind of interest. The bank will pay you money for having money sit there in your account, and it depends on how much you have and what the percentage is as to what that interest is. Now let's talk about what I call the annoying kind of interest. So let's say that you're ready to buy your first car, which you guys are not too far away from that. And so let's say that you go to the bank and you say, I found a $16,000 car. can I borrow $16,000 to go buy this car? Well, the bank will they'll check your credit score, which your credit score is like your grade on your financial responsibility. Um, so do you pay your bills? Do you have a job? They look into all those things as to whether you're going to be able to pay this amount back to them. And then if they agree to give you this loan, you'll pay back the principal amount, the $16,000. That's called the principal. That's the amount that you actually borrowed from them. And then you'll have to pay them back even more than 16,000. You'll have to pay them back interest too, and that's how banks make their money. Is you don't only just pay them back the 16,000 that you borrowed, you pay them back more than 16,000. And it depends on what you and your bank agree on as to how much more you pay. So typically car loans, they'll charge you 0 to 7% interest. Every once in a while you can find a loan that is 0% interest. Or sometimes they'll run a special if they're wanting people to go buy more cars, or they'll run a special sometimes where like you'll have 3 years of 0% interest, and those are nice. You want to take advantage of those if the timing is right. And typically car loans, you pay them back in 3 to 7 years. So you might agree with your bank to pay this back in 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. You make that agreement with your bank, okay? So let's say I go to the bank. I need a loan for $16,000. They agree. They say, okay, but it's 5% interest right now, let's say. And I'm going to write this in the corner. And so you say, okay, all right, I just have to deal with that. So for the amount of interest each year, I'm going to do 16,000 times 0.05. Okay, that's going to be $800 in interest that I'm going to have to pay back each year, okay? Now, let's say that me and my bank agreed that I'm going to pay this back in 6 years, okay? So that means I'm going to have to pay that amount of interest back for every year that I have the loan out, okay? So I'm going to do 800 times 6. That means I'm going to have to pay back a total of $4,800. $4,800 just in interest, okay? So this is my principal amount that I have to pay back, and then I'm going to owe them this much in interest. So the total amount that I end up paying back is $20,800, okay? And that's how banks make their money. They loan you $16,000 and you pay them back $20,800, and now they just made $4,800. And that's how it works. Now, car loans, like that seems kind of silly, or that's like, oh, that's a little bit annoying, but house loans are super crazy. So let's look at a house loan. Let's say, and houses, range in prices all over the place. You can find a $50,000 house, or probably even less than that, to $1 million houses. So they range all over the place. So let's just say that we found a decent house for $85,000, okay? Now, house loans, usually the interest rate is between 3 to 5% interest. And house loans, you can pay back, typically, you and your bank agree on anywhere from paying it back in 10 years all the way up to a possibility of 40 years. So you could pay it back in 20, 25 years, 30, 35 years, 40 years, whatever you and your bank agree on, okay? So let's say that my $85,000 house, I go to the bank, I fill out all the paperwork, say, can I have an $85,000 loan to buy this house? And they run your credit score and they check your financial responsibility, see if you have a job, all those things. And they say, yep, you qualify for your loan, so you can have it, okay? So then they say, you qualify for a 5% loan. Okay, so I'm going to find 5% of 85,000. So I'm going to punch in my calculator. 0.05, that's 5%, times 85,000. I get $4,250. Okay, that's the amount of interest that I'm going to pay back for 1 year of the loan, okay? Now you can sign up for I'm sure they'll probably do a 5-year loan, but hardly anybody can pay back a house loan in 5 years. So 10 to 40 years. Now, I know my parents, when they bought their house, they signed up for a 30-year loan. Honestly, I don't even know what my house loan, how many years we signed up for. We'll go with 30 years. Okay, so I agreed to pay this back in 30 years. Well, every year that I have this loan out, I'm going to have to pay back this much interest. So 4,250 times 30 years, because I've got to pay this much back every year. That's $127,500 just for interest. That's not even paying back my original principal amount that I took out from the bank. So my total amount that I pay back by the time my end of 30 years is here, I'm going to add that to my principal amount, $85,000, is $212,500. And this would be why I call this the annoying kind of interest. So it's to your benefit to be able to pay your house loan back in 10 years instead of 30 years, because then you can save on some of that interest, because your $85,000 house just became a $212,000 house. We're going to look at a lot more examples in the part 2 interest video. So this is just part 1 to give you a general idea, and then we're going to do a bunch of examples together in part 2. So, all right, get your calculators out. We're going to get to work in part 2.